Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy, technology, principles, applications. This video is about Nibiru, or some people call it Planet X, or even Wormwood, if you're taking that reference from the scripture. So this is highly unconventional information. In fact, this model, this etheric magnetic model of the universe, probably will not be taught in any type of school until after the pole shift and until there's some sort of enlightenment. And and one of the first things they're probably going to teach is that this last 100 years or so has been a very dark era of science. It has been an era of absolutely suppressing contradictory information, and some of the most amazing technology, the most amazing inventions and discoveries were just ignored and suppressed in the and then some of the most destructive, horrible technology in the existence of the human race, and really probably in the existence of this planet. And there's been a lot more history than conventional science likes to admit, has been greatly suppressed. And then this whole idea of like separationism, isolationism, empiricism, that all these things that like tell us that we're alone in the universe and it's impossible to get contact with other worlds, and the speed of light is the limitation, which is complete BS. Okay, so you'll find this model being taught in top secret facilities where there's security clearances required. That's the type of place that's going to teach this. Now, when we get to Nibiru and how does magnetic energy relate to that, there's a couple factors involved with this. So this is going way, way, way back. This body was a little more ramped up, this Nibiru, and you wouldn't necessarily say it was a full-blown star, even though a binary system is very compatible with the magnetic model, because you've got balancing polarities and inflow and outflow with the two stars involved. And even now, this planet, I wouldn't call it a planetoid, and it's really not technically a star, but this body that's in our solar system still provides some benefit and some use from a magnetic point of view. You could maybe say it's kind of like the bass note in the back of the orchestra or something, so it still provides a valuable resonance. But such a very long time ago, it was converting etheric energy, it was doing its thing, and it may have not have been a full-blown star, but there was a lot more power involved. Now, at some point, that body, the etheric energy was cut off from it, and it was essentially, now it's like cooled, compressed plasma so it's probably 90% less efficient, according to what we were told, than it was back in the day when it actually had some power. And so its magnetic field is a lot weaker. Its gravitational field is a lot weaker. And I know there's probably lots of contradictory information to what I'm saying online out there, but this is just according to what we were given in this whole Nibiru model, or this whole Nibiru concept. And so there's a lot of discussion about its orbit and how it impacts our planet and how it impacts our solar system. So it moves relatively slow in its orbit now. Its rotation on its axis is relatively slow. It is very difficult to see because of the surface of it does not reflect light very well. So optical telescopes are very inefficient when it comes to tracking and spotting it, and its overall EM output across the spectrum is actually very low. So it has a very low radiation output, a very low infrared output. So all the different things that NASA and other agencies would normally track conventionally, it's very difficult to track it. And so it would be very difficult for amateur astronomers to track it as well. And so that's kind of where these more like high security clearance organizations come into play, when they're using magnetic energy technology, and they have like neutral magnetic energy that they can use to basically look at the solar system and heavenly bodies and stars and everything else through magnetic technology. And that, with that type of technology, then yes, you can perfectly track Nibiru and where it's at. So I'm going to this This is my prop. Oh, for those of you who don't know, especially younger people, this used to be like how we watched movies and like how we listened to music. It was actually kind of cool back in the day. You literally could have a whole album on this or a whole movie. Now I know that's not. I know these are like garbage at this point, but you know they used to be kind of cool. I mean, hey, bring back 8-track tapes, right? So this could represent like the solar disk, the solar plane, the ecliptic of the solar system, and then the sun would be in the center. So then the inner planets would be very close to that, the outer planets out here. So the Nibiru orbit, according to what we're told, is very highly elliptical. So it's like coming way out like Oort cloud territory, and then it comes in, and then the closest it gets to the plane is usually below us. So you got this hugely highly elliptical orbit, and right now it's somewhere out here like in the Oort cloud area, and then it's going to come under us essentially. If you want to look at it, nothing's really up or down or north or south, but just for the sake of explanation, it will come like below the South Pole, and like, but still very far from our planet, and then it will move and go back into its orbit. Now that process, or that the closest it will get according to what we're told, is around 2026. So that year we could see significant impact from Nibiru. And the thing is, it's not, there's a lot of, for many cycles now, there have been adjustments to its orbit, there have been guidance in its orbit, there have been influences on this heavenly body, for lack of a better word, from highly intelligent beings that are influencing the way it moves and the way it has its orbit. And one of those restrictions right now is this heavenly body, I don't know what else to call it, it will not be allowed to pass through the plane of our solar system within the planetary orbits, if that makes sense. So like it can't go boom, like right through the solar disk, our solar system disk essentially. And it is not allowed to do that at this point. So the orbit, if you want to say it's been adjusted, it's been influenced, I wouldn't say it's necessarily under intelligent control at all times, although it easily could be, but it's going to go around essentially the planetary orbits, so that the impact, the influence isn't massive. Because I mean, it could have quite a disturbing impact, especially if it came through the interplanetary bodies. So, but here's the thing, even if it's still very far away from our planets, and its magnetic field, its gravitational field is incredibly weak compared to what it once was, even a small amount of influence can still be quite significant, and it can still be quite triggering for this whole pole shift process and establishing these new fields that are flowing through the Earth and everything. Now, size-wise, area-wise, it's bigger than the Earth, like several times bigger than the Earth. But if you want to talk about mass, and mass isn't really a big thing in the magnetic energy model, because there's kind of no such thing as mass, and mass is not what creates gravity in this model. It's the etheric flow, the magnetic flow through a body that creates that. And Nibiru has had that etheric flow. Basically, it's been cut off, and it's just has enough to just maintain a small influence compared to what it used to be. But mass-wise, it's still not, it's much lighter, if you will, than the Earth. So it's basically almost like, you want to say like a hollow shell. And it's not like this whole model of like how you get a brown dwarf or there's this incredible compression of mass and all that. That's not really how this magnetic energy etheric model works. In fact, not most, but the whole star model is the interior has to be relatively empty. There needs to be a lot of space in there, because this space is what allows the nuclear reactions to take place under pressure and everything, and the etheric flow to the etheric energy to go in there, be captured, be transmuted, be pressurized, and converted into what is the output of a star. So space inside of a star is very critical, and it's not like, oh my god, you got to have this huge heavy star to hold everything in place. This model doesn't work like that at all. The stars are not holding planets in place like in the conventional model. There's a gravitational field that's around a solar system, and there's a flow of energy, and I've talked about all of this stuff in other videos, but I just want to be clear that Nibiru isn't some super compressed, highly potent gravitational body that can just wreak havoc no matter where it's at. It's actually the effect of it is actually quite small compared to like what the conventional model of it would be. But even that small amount of influence, though, can be very significant. And so around 2026, if we see a ramp up, and there could be all kinds of ramp up as it's moving around and it comes underneath from, so like 2025 up to 2026 and 27, like there's this whole idea that it can influence weather patterns, earthquakes, volcanoes, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, though, because of its poles and the energy running through it, it can influence the establishment of the new poles and trigger like pole shift, help to trigger pole shift, and help trigger the newly established poles that are basically forming right now on our planet. So that's a lot of rambling, and I hope I'm making that clear. And hopefully it will not be as cataclysmic as so many people predict that it will be. It absolutely, the orbit of it is guided and influenced very highly much. And that's another thing. It's so weird about our whole conventional model says empiricism and what we see and what we touch and all that is all there is. And this new model, this magnetic model, will come online, and people with just a smidge of enlightenment will have their eyes open, their mind open, and they'll see that there are so many players involved in our existence right now. And interdimensional, extra-dimensional, higher vibrational beings and beings around the solar system and stuff, we're so influenced all the time. And I mean, we literally are like a few of the actors on stage, and if you think about like a movie set, how many people and how much effort goes into all the support for producing everything. I mean, just look at the credits on like a Pixar film or something, and there's literally like thousands of people. I mean, that's kind of like us. It's like this whole production, but there's just thousands of beings, and compared to the handful of people, like if you want to have that be your ratio, that are behind the scenes, that are helping make all of this work and all of this go and keep going, and hopefully not end up in some massive destructive pattern. So and I want to just reiterate, keep in mind that all this leads to a pole shift to so much better of an existence for this planet and life on this planet, and really it's necessary for our survival and for the survival of the human race. So this is a huge deal, and ultimately the true birth of love on this planet, and unconditional love on this planet, and an enlightenment and all that. So this is a positive thing, and I thought it was important for me to touch on this. And as we get more information, I will absolutely continue to talk about Nibiru, or Planet X, if you want to call it that, even though I'd say it doesn't really qualify as a planet. But just this whole, and try to give any updates that we get. So I thank you for watching this, and I will see you next time.